All right, joining us here on our Ford Performance Zoom call this week is Michael McDowell, driver of the number 34 Loves Travel Stops Ford Mustang in the Cup Series. And Michael's got a home race this week in Phoenix at Phoenix Raceway. Michael, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, and we'll get started here. We're going to start with Rob Tiongson. Rob, go ahead and ask your question for Michael.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks for joining us today, Michael. I have a couple of questions to start things off, but I'll start with my first one. We talked about this last year before the next gen car really hit the track in its oval configuration. But given that you have 3 races under your belt so far, how would you rate the experience of driving these cars versus the previous iteration from the past several years?
Yeah, so I thought that the first few races here have gone really well. When we all were at that Charlotte test, we were concerned, but Charlotte is one of those racetracks that dirty air and it's just a tough place. It's a tough place to pass. So we felt like that was probably like one of the worst case scenarios in that test. And then also too, with everybody having very limited time with these cars, the teams always do a good job of making everything better, right? And that's what they do. So I feel like California was a great race. Start with Daytona. Daytona was like Daytona always is. I didn't see much change there. The car has some different characteristics, but for the most part, how the race went is pretty much how the races have gone in the past. California, I thought the cars were really, competitive and they were good in traffic. You see more side-by-side racing. And when I say side-by-side, I actually mean just closer proximity. The air doesn't seem to affect these cars as much, like when somebody's on your outside really tight, where with the previous generation car, it would kind of suck you around and almost want to spin you out. And so if you were that outside car, you sort of had to give a little bit of room. And if you're that inside car, you had to protect that. And now I feel like you can be pretty aggressive side by side and the cars drive pretty well. So all in all, I thought it's been great. I think Vegas was good. I think California was good. And those were the tracks that were probably the biggest question marks, is the big tracks, the 1.5 mile, 2 mile tracks. So coming to a short track, I think it's just going to get better, right? Because this car, it lends itself more to road courses, short tracks, got big brakes, it's got a bigger tire, all those things that will help on those, racetracks that you can really attack. So I thought it's gone really well. I haven't watched the Vegas race yet as far as play it back to see how it was, but from my seat, it was pretty good.
That's great to hear. And that's what really is going to be encouraging to watch with Phoenix, your hometown track, this coming Sunday. And of course, in a couple of weeks, COTA here in Austin, Texas. My last question for you, let's kind of get things a little bit off track. We're about the same age, in our late 30s, and you've been in racing for quite some time. What would be some advice you tell your younger self about racing or just in life in general that you wish you knew years later, or do you have no regrets about that?
Yeah. I mean, one thing that always sticks out to me is in the early years, especially in my rookie year in Cup and, when you're first starting, I just didn't take it in. I didn't enjoy it that much because I let the pressure and just all the extra noise kind of take away the fun from it. You work your entire life to get to this spot, and then you get there and then you just feel that weight of having to perform and, all the extra pressures that, I didn't take in kind of the cool moments, like the first time you're at the Brickyard or the first time you're at Daytona, and like really like take it in and be like, man, this is neat, something that you get to cherish. It was more of just like, just not enjoying it as much as I should. So that's probably the biggest thing. And, this sport is so much of highs and lows, like there's just, you got to be able to ride the wave. And so you can't take yourself too seriously because most weekends for most drivers, it's a losing weekend. I mean, if you just think about the span of your career, even the top guys, maybe not Larson right now, but you take the top guys, Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin and Martin Truex, and those guys, like majority of your career you spend losing. And so you have to be able to do both well. You have to be able to manage the highs and the lows because every week is different.
I really appreciate your insights on that. I think it's really applicable to us getting out there in the motorsports industry. So I thank you for your responses. Best of luck. And thank you, Dan, as well.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Rob. Let's go to Marty. Marty Sakala, go ahead.
Thanks there, Dan. Michael, thanks for the time. So we've been hearing a lot recently from Tyler Reddick and I think Eric Almirola about the leg numbness that they're experiencing. I know the cockpits are different compared to last year. I'm not a doctor, obviously, but is there a way to prevent this, like get the blood flowing into lower extremities before a race or adjust seats? Or is this something drivers may, have to get used to?
Yeah, I'm not really a doctor. I haven't had any of those issues. And so, everything's new with this car, right? And so there's a lot of, the seat's in a different spot, the dash is in a different spot, even the front window in reference to the seat locations in a different spot. The foot box is completely different. And, I can't speak for those guys because I don't know what they have going on. But if you apply your old seating position and how you want to be into this new car, I could see where there'd be some challenges. For me, it hasn't been much of a challenge because this is actually more of the seating position that I'm used to prior to, stock car racing with sports cars and things like that. The foot box and all that is the same. So I haven't had any of those harmonics issues, through my feet or legs. But I think that, if there's 38 drivers, right, and I've only heard 2 talk about that, and it's not calling them out, it's a real problem for them, I totally get it. But if there was half the field or 3/4 of the field, then I would be like, oh, there's a concern, we need to explore options from a sports standpoint. But when it's 2 guys, I think they just need to explore it from moving around their inserts and maybe doing things a little different than they've done in the past. And maybe their legs are sitting at the wrong angle, or, you're sitting on a particular nerve or vein for too long or something like that, so there's a lot of elements to it, but I haven't had any issues with the cockpit.
And then also next week, looking in advance to Atlanta, SMI is still advertising that like full speed super speedway like racing. Is this something you're still expecting, or could there be like concerns that we could see something similar to maybe Texas when they had the extremely slick high side the first time they had it? Just what are you expecting from that?
Yeah, expect the unexpected. I mean, I didn't get a chance, we didn't do the tire test. So I haven't seen the racetrack other than, just like you all probably watched on YouTube when they were doing the test and stuff like that. So I don't really know what to expect. The guys that I have talked to, said the track has a lot of grip and, it's very easy, wide open, much like Daytona and Talladega. So I'm sort of anticipating that style of a race. But, just like everybody else, with not making any laps, and you just don't know until you get there. But, that's the one thing this sport, or I think the Cup Series in general, does really well. I mean, you look at the Coliseum, right? Everybody was freaking out. Oh, what are we doing? How is this going to work? And it was great. Our cars drove great on it. It was a great race. I think when you have teams and drivers at this caliber, everybody adapts really quickly and figures it out. And so Atlanta, I think, will have some new challenges, but it's the same for everybody. So I think, you just go there with open mind and see what happens.
All right. Thank you for the time, man. Good luck to you this weekend.
Thanks.
Thank you, Marty. Let's go to Nathan Solomon. Go ahead, Nathan, you're up.
Thank you. Thanks for being here, Michael. Obviously a home race for you this weekend. Just simply, what's the key for you to run well at Phoenix?
The key for us really this week is just minimizing, some mistakes and also some gremlins that we've been fighting these last few weeks. Obviously with this being a new car, everybody's, learning a lot, in these first few races. And so we've had some issues, that we're navigated through the first 2 weeks here, or the first, 3 weeks. Daytona wasn't really much of an issue, but we've had good speed and our cars have been really fast, and especially the first half of the race. And so we just got to execute. We knew that there was going to be, things that sort of were not expected, that, with a new car, you just kind of figure out. And so, we're having to make some adjustments, which is hard to do when you're in the West Coast swing, because the cars aren't going back and forth, so you really have a day in the shop before you load up, and it has to be gone for the next one to do the swap out. So Phoenix in particular, I feel like is, with the test that we had here, last month, that's going to help a lot because most of us, got an opportunity to kind of feel things out and get our cars close and have at least some targets for simulation and all those things. So this weekend should go a little bit smoother than the last two, but yeah, for us, it's just cleaning up some of the details that we had some issues with last, 2 weeks.
Obviously, you have a new crew chief this season, Blake Harris. How well have you guys connected here through the first couple of races?
Yeah, he's done a great job. I mean, he's a tremendous asset. He's done really well. It's really unfortunate that we don't have the results to show because last week, at Vegas, it felt like we had a top 10 car and we were able to drive into the top 10 in those first 30 laps. And same at California, we were running 8th or 9th with 10 laps to go and then had an electrical issue. So, we don't have the results to kind of show what we've been able to do, but we've had really good speed and really good potential on our cars. And so we're optimistic, that's why we want to get this fixed and we want to get everything cleaned up as quick as we can because we feel like we've left a couple top 10s, on the table there. And but we feel good. We feel good with this next gen car. It seems to fit my driving style well. Blake has done a good job with maximizing, getting, I don't want to say a new team, but sort of a new group together and a new car and all new format with practice qualifying. I mean, everything has changed. So it's a lot to take on, as a rookie crew chief, your first year. So. And
my last question, now that the West Coast swing is starting to wrap up, for Front Row Motorsports as a whole, just how comfortable are you guys right now, just in terms of the number of next gen cars you guys have prepared?
No, I don't think anybody's comfortable. But, as we get closer to, wrapping up this West Coast swing, I mean, things are getting somewhat better. And it's really hard to explain because it's not like one part or one piece, right? And so even though everybody's in the same boat from a team standpoint, our damage, the first few weeks might be different than another team's, but the allotment of parts and the allotment of what's available isn't contingent on what you broke. It's contingent on what's available. And so it's been tough, but we've managed to get through it pretty well. And, I feel like in the next few weeks we'll be on schedule, probably not ahead of schedule, but on schedule, and everything will smooth out quite a bit.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to Devin Henry. Go ahead, Devin.
Hey, Michael, Devin Henry for Sports 360 AZ. Thanks for taking the time to do this during your kind of at-home week. And last year you won the Daytona 500 without your family even there. This year you were able to have your whole family in Daytona. You've been able to go and travel with them a little bit during the West Coast swing. Is there anything in particular that you're trying to do with your family while you're here in Phoenix? And you guys are really only at the track for 2 days as opposed to the usual 3 days in total. And anything other than maybe trying to do some roller skating like back in the old days?
Yeah, no, it's been a fun week. It just worked out timing wise that my kids are on spring break while we're here in Phoenix. So, my wife and I were both from here. All of our family and friends are out here. So we haven't planned anything real big. We've just been hanging out with our family. So yeah, nothing too exciting, but yeah, it's been nice. Like I said, it doesn't always work out that way. And with 4 kids, taking them out of school to come do this would be tough. So it worked out at all line this year. So it was nice. And yeah, just enjoying, hanging out with friends and family. And then obviously, like you said, the schedule, it's pretty easy. You get there Saturday and, you have your qualifying and practice kind of all lumped together. And so there's not a whole lot of, hanging out at the racetrack. So that makes it nice to be able to, spend some more time. But at the same time, it's hard because you want to stay like focused on what you got going on and what you got to do. So, but right now we're enjoying it. I'm going to go, pick up my, grandma here for lunch and, yeah, just make the most of these days that we have here.
Thanks, Michael. Best of luck this weekend and enjoy lunch.
All right. Thanks.
All right, let's go to Cole Kuzmano. Go ahead, Cole.
Hey guys, thank you so much for the time today. Clash aside, this race at Phoenix will be the first real competitive debut of the newer, bigger braking system on the next gen car. What are you expecting as far as on-track product goes in that area?
Yeah, I think this is kind of like a light test for the brakes because Phoenix, even though it is a short track, it's pretty high speed. And with the test here, you were using the brakes, but you weren't using them like you would at a road course or you would at Martinsville or a Richmond or something like that. So I feel like this is kind of like easing into it. The brakes are much better on the next gen car, bigger, better cooling. I think the wheels help that a lot too. I mean, the tires in general, the wheels are running much cooler, but bigger brakes, more powerful brakes. So, I think that, this will be a good first test for it and in a full race condition. But yeah, so Martinsville and Coda will be the real test, right? Of like how hard and how much you can push them and how deep you can brake with these cars. But it's been fun to try to find that limit. Even on green flag pit stops at Las Vegas last week, it's like the brakes stop, and you gotta remind yourself that you can go much further than you think. So it's fun. It's fun getting used to a new car.
And then typically you use the first Phoenix race as an opportunity to build a notebook for the next one at the end of the year. And I'm sure that's still the case, but is there much you can take from this race and apply to that next one, or is just the evolution going to be so drastic with this next gen car in that time?
Yeah, that's a big question mark. In general, you would say the evolution of the car is going to be, so fast, and we're going to be learning so much that it probably won't, be applied too much. But with what we've seen, through the tests and through the races, that NASCAR's done a good job of developing this car in a window where the exploration hasn't really paid off yet. We've tried a bunch of stuff in these tests and we've tried to get outside the box, and nothing seems to really move the needle much as far as speed. So who knows? It could be you run something pretty similar. But one thing it does help for sure is like pace. Helps the engineers back at the shop with simulation for the next time you come, and tire fall off and all that. So you're definitely going to be building a notebook for sure. And it'll be interesting to see, once we get to the end of the summer, how much the setups and cars have evolved.
Thank you for your time today. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, Michael, we got two more questions here. Two more folks who want to ask some questions. Let's go to Nicholas.
problem.
Go ahead. You're up first.
Thanks so much for doing this, Nicholas Hodel from Arizona PBS Cronkite News. First off, just how comfortable have you gotten driving this car over the last several weeks?
Yeah, I don't think anybody's super comfortable. The cars in general are pretty edgy. They're, as we can see, like, in practice qualifying in the race, you can get behind and lose it pretty quickly. But, every race that we do, we're all getting a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more confident of where that limit is. But with that short practice, it is definitely a challenge firing off, in kill mode and trying to be 10/10ths, because each track is different with this next gen car. And normally we have a pretty good notebook and have some ideas. So you ease into it a little bit, throughout the weekend. But for me, I feel really confident, especially, by race time. I felt like we had everything worked out. Our heights were good. Everything was driving pretty nice. So yeah, but you don't let your guard down with this car for sure. I mean, it can snap around really quickly.
And then also, with this being your home race here in Arizona, do you feel a little bit more pressure to try to succeed with your family and friends around and other people who you feel pretty close to being in the area?
You always want to perform well, but I don't feel any extra pressure. More than anything, I just feel extra pressure because the last 2 weeks we haven't got the results that I think that we are capable of. And this sport's all about momentum, and it's all about just building those results and confidence. And so we need to capitalize, right? Like, we've had the speed, and so now if we can capitalize and get a result, it just helps so much at the team and the morale and everything else. So really, it's the extra pressure is just wanting to run well and get that momentum going. And obviously, if you can do it at home, it's nice.
All right, thanks for the time, Michael. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, let's close it out with Zach Sterniolo, NBC Sports. That sounds good, doesn't it, Zach?
It does. That hasn't gotten old yet. Hey, Michael. So going into this weekend, first and foremost, we look at the last couple of weeks. Obviously, you guys have had speed, but so too have teams like Trackhouse and GMS and JTG, teams running inside the top 10 that we haven't really seen consistently up there in the past couple of years. For the speed that you guys have had at front row, where does that put the optimism as the season goes on? Obviously, it's still fairly fresh, but how does everything? What's the mindset like and the optimism like heading forward?
I think that we are optimistic. I think we were optimistic coming into this year that it would kind of level the playing field, and I think it's doing what we expected. Honestly, I really do. So, and that's also, what adds to the last few weeks kind of being a bummer, just because we've had those opportunities. And you just don't know when that tide's going to change, right? Like we were talking about the development, the biggest teams, the best teams will always be the top. I mean, you're still seeing the same, top teams challenge for wins. But we just don't know when that momentum will swing, right? To where if there will be a lot of development and they'll get ahead, or if it'll stay close like this. If it stays close like this, I mean, I think that you're going to see us have a lot of opportunities to be in that top 5 and challenge for a win. Just like you said, you're going to see Trackhouse and you're going to see JTG and you're going to see other teams that are able to do that as well. As long as it doesn't turn into like a really, steep development curve, which hopefully it won't, but we just don't know until we get there.
Sure. And then last thing for you, your impressions on Todd so far. I know it's a small sample size outside of Daytona, but what have you seen from him over these first couple of weeks, the feedback that he's been giving to the team, and how has that relationship been growing between you guys? Obviously, you guys have had a strong relationship even before he was your Cup teammate, but what's that been like so far?
Yeah, Todd's done great. He's beat me twice now. So we were joking in the meeting, the way that we structure our meeting, whoever finished the highest gets to go first. So he's gotten to go first the last 2 weeks. I told him not to get too used to that. But all joking aside, he's done a great job. The Cup Series is tough as a rookie. Vegas is a tough place. I mean, it really is a tough place. And so I think he did a great job there. He showed great speed too early in the race, was able to drive up into the top 15, and then he had some of the issues that we had as well. So I don't think he's gotten to show his potential yet either. But at the same time, he's capitalized on, just making the most of the days, and they did a good job, last week in Vegas, just kind of with strategy and making sure that he was able to get that wave around, and he did a good job of just managing all that. So I think he's done good. It doesn't seem like he's been overwhelmed, so that's good. It doesn't seem to be like too much for him. But it's early in the season, and it's keeping that mental focus and that, positive attitude for 36 weeks. And but so far he's done a great job. And hopefully when things slow down a little bit and we get back on, kind of our normal schedule, East Coast schedule, we'll be able to debrief more and have more time. But right now it's like, as soon as the cars get back, they're loading up and leaving again, and you don't really have a lot of time to go through plan, strategy, what you're going to do. So it should get better here in the next few weeks.
Appreciate your time. Good luck this weekend.
Thanks.